Okay, we're on our last section of the chapter. Here we go. Once again, e-learners, here is the schedule for next week. The only requirement is that you take the final on the day that it is given. You can't wait a day. If you wait a day, it's a zero. Unless you have some sort of, I don't know, electronic problem, computer crashes, internet. You got to tell us though. You go to the hospital, something weird. You got to tell us. You need to call the front desk at LTA and tell us that you're having issues, and then we'll cut you some slack and figure something out. But if you tell us nothing and you wait until Friday to do all your tests, you're going to get a zero for them. Make sure that you do them. So for my class, that will be Thursdays when you have to take your test by midnight. You need to take your semester final next Thursday. Okay, I will post it probably by 7 o'clock in the morning. You're free to take it at any time you want. Here's your homework for tonight. Okay. Today we're going to switch gears slightly. Remember I said there's a formula for everything, and this chapter is all about formulas. Well, we do get a new formula today. We're going to be talking about something called interest. So we're going to be talking about money today. Quick definition. When you've heard this word before, but maybe you don't know what it means, a loan. A loan is when you borrow money for a specific time. I'm going to borrow a certain number of $1,000 for 10 years or for 4 years or for 6 months. Obviously, this money must be paid back. The opposite of a loan, when you take money from someone, is when you give money to someone, and that's called an investment. When you give some of your money, when you lend them your money, you're investing in them. And that money also must be repaid, but it will be repaid back to you. You give them the money, they got to pay it back to you. Now, all this sounds nice, but most of us, myself included, most of us would probably wonder, why would we give money to someone? Why would we take money from someone? Why would someone give me money to buy a house? Well, this is this idea of interest, is that in both a loan and an investment, there will be some extra money exchanged for the privilege of someone borrowing that money for a specific amount of time. That's called interest. How it works, big picture. So it's your birthday, your grandmother gives you some money, your mom immediately says, hey, let's put that in your bank account. So you go to the bank, you put a little bit of money in the bank. Well, not only you do that, but lots of people put money in the bank. The bank turns around and gives that money. Oh, that's your investment. The bank turns around and gives that money out in the form of a loan. Someone wants to buy a car, or cars cost far more than $20. So the bank gives a loan to someone who says, yes, please loan me some money so I can buy a new car. And what I will pay you back, Mr. Bank, is something called interest. So the person that borrows the money to buy the car, not only do they repay the money that they were just loaned, they give them some extra money, and that extra money is called interest. The interest is paid back to the bank. The bank takes some of that money for themselves. That's how they operate. And then because you gave the bank some money, they give you back a little bit of interest as well, too. So interest goes both ways. Interest is something that you pay back when you borrow money in the form of a loan, and when you invest in the bank, you put some money in your savings account, you get some interest for that. They're paying you some money so that they can keep your money. All right, that's big picture, and that was a pretty broad stroke. Now we're going to get kind of in the weeds, some definitions that I'm sure many of you do not know about. The first one's called the principal. The principal, just like the principal of the school, it's spelled the same way, different meaning. And this is the amount that you borrow or you invest. So, for instance, if I borrow $30,000 to buy a new car, that's the principal of the loan. When I put $100 into my savings account, whatever I have in my savings account at that time is called the principal. Now, how do they calculate this thing called interest? Well, interest is calculated by something called an annual rate. And this is the percentage rate that is used to calculate interest. Now, typically for savings account, it's a very low number, 1%, 2%. Yeah, and typically much smaller than that, sometimes less than 1%. And the percentage rate or the annual rate that when you borrow a car is typically much higher. So in the 5, 6, 7%, that sort of thing. Sometimes when you're watching commercials on the car, they'll say APR, annual percentage rate, is now at 3.9%, something like that. Lastly, since we've talked about a bunch of interest, this is the extra money that you're charged when you take out a loan, or the extra money that you earn when you have money in a savings account. That's all called the same thing, interest. Okay, any questions? So this class, we're going to be doing something. There is a formula for this. We're going to do a calculation called simple interest. The most basic type of loan, the most basic type of savings account are paid in what's called simple interest. Now, there is a much more formal form for credit cards, for you take out a house loan, car loans. It's called compound interest. And it is a much more challenging formula. We will not be messing with this form. This is the compound interest formula this year. We will see this one in Algebra 1. We'll see this next year. But this year, all we're going to do is simple interest. Okay, so remember, interest, right, that is money that you pay to the bank when you take out a loan. Conversely, that is money that the bank pays you when you put money in your savings account. Okay, so interest goes both ways. All right, so this is actually a pretty simple formula today. Here's the formula. Write this down, please. We call it the I pretty formula, I equals PRT, and this is the formula to calculate simple interest. Make sure, I should have put that at the top there, formula. This is the formula for simple interest. I stands for the interest that you receive or you pay in dollars. P stands for the principal. That's the amount of your loan or the amount that you have in your savings account. R is your interest rate. That's going to be written as a decimal. Almost all our formulas, other than the one that we did last night, the interest rate is written as a decimal. And then lastly, T. This is an important one. T is time in years. Not in months, not in days, not in hours, but in years. So how does this work? All right, everybody have the formula copy down? All right, how does this work? Well, here's an example. It says Martina deposits $11,500 in a 6-month savings certificate. So she's giving the bank money, in this case $11,500 for 6 months. She's not going to touch the money for 6 months. The savings certificate pays an annual rate of 10.5%. Geez, I wish that my bank paid that much. How much money will she have at the end of 6 months? We will use the simple interest formula to calculate this. Remember, I stands for the amount of dollars you will see in interest. Now, we don't know that. That's what we're trying to calculate here. But we do know that the P stands for principal. That's the amount of your loan or the amount of money you have in your savings account. So since she deposits $11,500, well, her principal is $11,500. R is your interest rate, and it says that it's 10.5%, and our formula says we need to write that as a decimal, so move the decimal place 2 places to the left. 1, 2, that would be 0.105. Lastly, T stands for time in years. Let's see, where does it say? It says that it's a 6-month savings, so how much money will she have at the end of 6 months? Well, 6 months is not a year, it's a half a year, so either a half or 0.5. Grab our calculators, we do that math there, 11,500 times 0.105 times 0.5, and we get what I is. So it looks like the interest that she will make after 6 months is $603.75. Now, does that answer the question? Let's see, what does the question say? How much money will she have at the end of 6 months? Well, she's got $603 in interest, but she still has the $11,500 from the original investment. So in order to calculate how much she has at the end of 6 months, we take those two numbers and we add them up. The original amount, the principal, $11,500, plus the interest, she made $603.75. She winds up with $12,103.75. Most people, this is the mental gymnastics they go through is it worth losing access to $11,500 for 6 months to earn $603? Some people would say yes, some people would say no, and that's kind of what adults do, is they decide whether or not this is a good or sound investment, whether or not this makes sense for them. All right, let's see another one. So let's do the converse of that. Instead of investing money, let's borrow some money. So you borrow $4,000 at an annual rate of 7.5% for 2 years. That means that you are going to borrow $4,000 and you're going to promise to pay it back in 2 years. Now, generally what happens is you don't pay it back at the end of 2 years. You pay it back during the loan, during those 2 years. I'll show you how that works here at the end. Okay, so you borrow $4,000 at an annual percentage rate of 7.5%. Your loan is for 2 years. Well, how much simple interest do you owe, and what is the total you must pay back? All right, let's do this. So remember, I stands for the interest in dollars. We're going to calculate that. P is your principal. So let's see, our principal is, we're borrowing $4,000. The interest rate is 7.5%. We move the decimal 2 places to the left, so 0.075. And we're doing it for 2 years. Grab your calculators. You do that math, and you get $600. So $600 is how much the bank will charge you for borrowing $4,000. But remember, you borrowed $4,000, so you're not paying the bank back $4,000. You're not paying the bank back $600. You're paying them back the combination of the two. The $600 is the price you pay for borrowing $4,000. So you owe the bank $4,600. What the bank typically does, since it's a 2-year loan, they'll divide $4,600 by 2 years. Well, let's see, there's 48 months in 2 years, so $4,600 divided by 48 is $95.83. So you will have to pay the bank every month for 2 years, $95.83. Now, the question didn't ask that, but just so you know how this works. Questions? All right, let's do one together. Here we go. Let's see, we are investing or taking a loan out. We're investing. You deposit $2,300 into a savings account, paying 5% annually. If you leave that money in the account for 10 years, that's a long time, how much money will you have at the end of 10 years? Okay, one piece at a time, my pretty. The principal is $2,300. The interest rate is 5%, so 0.05. And we're leaving it in for 10 long years. And yeah, you're basically saying to the bank, I'm not going to mess with my money for 10 years. So is this a wise investment? Well, it kind of depends how much you have at the end. So let's do the calculation. Oh, we get an extra $1,000, $150. So at the end of 10 years, we take the interest, which is $1,000. The bank's going to pay us $1,150 plus the money we started with. They're going to pay us $3,450. So if you leave this money and you get that interest rate, that's what you walk away with. Well, certainly that's a lot of money, right? But the deal is that you won't have access to your money for 10 years. Okay. All right. Let's do one for the loan. All right. So you borrow $4,800. A pretty cheap used car is $4,800. You borrow $4,800 at an annual rate of 9% for 4 years. How much simple interest do you owe? And what do you got to pay back? Same thing. You've seen it 6 times now. Last time, you borrow $4,800. That's your principal. 9%, so 0.09, and you're doing it for 4 years. You plug that all into the calculator, and whoa, that's a big number. $1,728. So not only do you owe the bank the original $4,800, you owe them an additional in interest payments, $1,728. That's the fee, basically, that you pay to the bank for them giving you $4,800 for 4 years. Add those two together, that's how much you owe the bank. Wow, those numbers really add up. It's not, you go to a used car lot, and you're like, oh, look, there's a car. It's $4,800. I have $5,000 saved up. Well, if that's great, pay cash. But if you don't, look how much extra you're paying for that car. You're paying an extra $1,728. Yeah, and if you want to know how much you're going to pay per month, you would divide that by, let's see, I divided that last one by 40. I should have divided by 24. Why didn't any of you stop me? Yeah, that last one we divided by 48. That's 4 years. This one, I was confused there. This one is 4 years. So this one is divided by 48. The previous one should have been divided by 24, or that would be 2 years. So this one is 6,528 divided by 48 this time is $136. I forget what the previous one was, but I don't remember. It was a 2-year loan, so you need to divide by 24 if you want to know how much you got to pay for each month. Okay, we got this? All right, one last one. Okay, you put $2,800 in a savings account. We're saving now. It pays 2.5% simple interest, and you leave it there for 5 years. Well, you kind of see how this game works here. The principal is $2,800. Interest rate is 2.5, so 0.25 or 0.025. and 5 years. Multiply it all together, wow, only $350. But now remember, we were only leaving it in there for 5 years. But that seems like not a lot of money for not touching your money for 5 years. You only made $350. So for me, I probably would look for a better investment. All right, I do want to show you one other thing. Let's see why this one is different. It says you borrow $4,800 at a rate of 9%, and it says you have to pay $2,160 in simple interest. How long did you have the loan? Notice we're not told how long the time is. So this one just turns into a little bit of an algebra problem. This time I'm told the interest. The interest is $2,160. I'm told the principal, $4,800. I'm also told the interest rate. What I'm not told is the time. So notice for this one, I'm solving for time. All right, just a little bit of algebra. 4,800 times 0.09. Get x by itself. Remember, that's your time. Divide both sides by 432. We get 5 years. So you're taking a 5-year loan out. All right, any questions? Now, if you do have questions, send them to me on chat or email. We do have one thing left. Remember I said that there was simple interest and there's compound interest. This one doesn't say compound interest. The next category is compounded simple interest. All right, compounding is the fact that, if you put money in and you put it in for over a year, right, you get some interest. But if you leave it in there for much longer than a year, right, your money should be growing, and it should be growing every single year. This is the idea of compounding. Right? There's a bunch of ways that the money can grow. Obviously, the previous categories, the money was growing annually, once a year. But it also can grow, if the bank chooses, semi-annually, meaning that they're going to pay you interest twice a year. That's what semi-annually means. But they can also pay quarterly. That's 4 times a year, every 3 months. And then they also can pay monthly. So if we think about time, well, annually, they're paying you interest rate one time a year. But if they're compounding it semi-annually, they're paying you interest twice a year. But your time frame, if it's semi-annually, that means every 6 months, is 0.5. You understand why T is 0.5 there? Because semi-annually would be every 6 months. Quarterly would mean every 3 months. And let's see, 12 months in a year. 3 divided by 12 is 0.25, so a quarter, right? And that's literally why it's called quarterly. And then lastly, monthly. Okay, that's an ugly one. Monthly is 1 divided by 12. So let's see, 1 divided by 12 is a very small decimal, and it's also a repeating decimal, 1 divided by 12. So be careful with that when using that number. No, I think there's one. No, actually, no, I don't think there's a question tonight for monthly. All right, so let's see how this works. It says Roy has deposited $2,500 into a vacation club savings plan. Some banks will have, hey, you're going on a vacation, save a little bit of money up. We have a special account for you to save that money in. They pay you, a certain percentage, typically a little bit higher. The plan pays 8% compounded, not yearly, not annually, but quarterly. What's the value in his account after 6 months? So here's how it works. We're still using the same formula, but we're compounding it quarterly. That means once every 3 months. So if he leaves his money in, they're going to pay him interest every 3 months. So step number 1, well, let's find out how much money he made after the end of 3 months. So I'm compounding it quarterly. That's why it says 0.25 instead of 1. 8% is 8%, 2,500. When we do that math, we see he made $50 in 3 months. Okay. So at the start of month 4, he doesn't have 2,500. He has 50 plus 2,000. In other words, he has 2,550. And that's what we plug in at the end of 3 months in for the next quarter. So notice I'm not multiplying this by 2,500. I'm multiplying it by the new principal, which is 2,550. So it's like he gets interest twice here. Okay. So when you do this math, it turns out to be $51. Notice the interest went up by $1. Now you might say big deal, right? $1. But I do want to say that when interest is compounded not annually but quarterly or monthly or even daily, you wind up with more money. Okay, we add that to that, and we find out at the end of 6 months, he has 2,601. That's how it's done. Any questions? Last one, and we'll call it a day. All right, you got a savings account. You put in $4,000. The bank pays 5% compounded monthly. Most banks compound it monthly. If you look at your monthly bank statements, you see that they pay you interest every month. How much money do you have at the end of 2 months? Once again, we just need to do this twice. First time, you have $4,000 as your principal. 1/12 is your time. Now you either can put 0.83 as 1/12, or you could put fraction or open parentheses 1 divided by 12 close parentheses on your calculator for 1/12 if you want to be very accurate. Okay, when you do that math, you find out you made approximately, I'm doing some rounding here, $16.67. And that is after 1 month. So after 1 month, we throw that in, we got $4,016.67. That's what we will throw in at the end of month to our new, for the second month, our new calculation. We do the calculation again. Notice we made an extra 7 cents. Boy, we're rolling in it now. We're going to add that to our principal, not the $4,000, but the $4,116. And we wind up at the end of 2 months, $4,033. Now, I do want to point out at the end of 2 months, the one, and you're like, oh, big whoop, $33. Well, remember what you did to earn this money, and that would be nothing other than you left your money in the bank. Okay, so this is a way of making money by simply breathing, right? The issue is that you don't have your $4,000, or you have access to it for 2 months. If you leave it in there for years, then you don't have access to that money. But a lot of people, this is why they make investments. It's because they are literally making money for doing nothing other than not having access to their money. Okay, any questions? All right, good luck with your homework. If you have any questions, send me an email or send me a chat. I'd be happy to help you. Don't forget, starting tomorrow, we'll do a Chapter 7 review tomorrow. And then we'll jump in on Friday with, we'll do 2 days of semester final review, Friday and Monday. Yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys tomorrow.